So, hi to all. I see that we have already a good list of attendees, so I suggest we started. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for all of you to take your time and being here with us today. My name is Anastasia Bersinyova. I'm Director of Sales at Examus, and I have a pleasure to coordinate this live webinar today. So this is a webinar conducted by Examus and bizExaminer, and we owe our special gratitude to our great partner Microsoft for their efforts that bring us all together today. The main topic of this event is top e-learning trends 2022, new perspective on proctoring technology. We believe that this prolonged experience of remote studies that we all have has changed the education forever. Facing the shift from the classroom, many of us have thought that this remote education is a temporary measure, but now we see that this is here with us to stay. And today we would like to exchange our thoughts and ideas on what we think it would be and it will be in the future. So we will try to answer the question, what online education technologies will be relevant in the future, how we can use these technologies to improve teaching content and improve the learning outcome, and what changes we observe in this in the exam evaluation itself. We hope that today presentation will inspire new ideas and discussion, and we would be glad to have this discussion to bring them forward in emails and online meetings, of course. Please use the chat feature to share any thoughts and ideas you may have. We will see two presentations at first, and then we will have Q&A session for you to ask any questions and receive answers from our presenters. And now let me introduce our first speaker. Dmitry Istomin is the CEO of Examus. Examus is one of the leading providers of AI-based technology for online education. The main product of Examus is a proctoring solution that helps universities, colleges, schools, and corporate customers to control cheating through the online exams and to provide better learning outcome. Dmitry, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Anastasia. I'm happy to see you here, but literally I can't see you right now, but I know that you're here. And what I would like to share with you today, I don't like to make a boring presentation about product features and so on. We definitely can share this information with you on the different call. What I would like to do, I would like to give you the perspective of what is online proctoring at all, not just like as a tool to punish the students and to find any cheating attempts. We started our journey 7 years ago, building the AI-based solution to control students' behavior during online exams. And after 3 years, so already 4 years ago, we realized that the real goal of universities, and we would like to help them, is to improve the learning outcomes of students, but not punish them. And already 3 years ago, we built the solution to learn the students' attention and engagement during the online courses, online webinars, not just for online exams. And we started spreading our vision that we would like to close the gap between online and in-campus education, bringing the two-way emotional interaction between students and teachers. During the pandemic, recording stopped. Is it correct, or should we proceed it? Okay. Starting the pandemic, we put on hold all this activity, and we were focused on our proctoring solution to bring it for more and more universities because it was the high demand. At the same time, we still thinking and still would like to back to this strategy on how to help to improve learning outcomes at all, but not just find the cheating attempts. So that's why I would like to share this vision and to show you why remote proctoring is good for e-learning environment at all, but not just to get in the exams. Sorry, I should check. Yeah. In 2021, the availability and popularity of online education in Europe are on rise. The presented statistics for EU countries give a clear picture that doing online course or using online materials is a common trend for the population from 60 to 70 years old. Among all EU countries, Iceland had the highest rate, about 80%. Finland and Sweden both registered a share of 65, followed by the Netherlands. At the other end of the scale, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Romania. Although the numbers are different, one thing is for sure. Following the breakthrough of online learning in the United States, Europe is now catching up, increasing both funding and infrastructure. To explain why e-learning is efficient, one can simply look at the advantages it has over traditional education. So we know that online education brings flexibility, brings totally new skill set, personal skill set, and any people from all over the world can have access to any course. And e-learning right now is clearly skill oriented. For professionals, freelancers, or job seekers, the digital courses, digital education is a good entry point to new skills and subjects. By adding new learning accomplishments to their professional social network or CV, people can significantly increase their chances of getting hired. If you know the Coursera, they promote a lot of stories when just a girl after the university took some courses for machine learning and got a very good job. And studying online also requires certain personal skills such as self-discipline, self-motivation, and communication. If you try to finish at least one course, you know that it's much harder than you just sitting in campus and listening to the professor. That's even important. Online education is more inclusive, which makes us more daring. Some 20 years ago, one could hardly imagine you can take up a master course in Yale being 50-year-old housewife in Spain. And right now, it's quite real and a lot of stories like it. So more and more people realize it's never too late to learn and become more professional, which leads us to raise the overall human capital. And that's the thing that a lot of countries care about right now. E-learning format has established itself both in formal and non-formal education. On the one hand, universities and colleges all over the world are offering a wide range of degree programs that allow you to receive fully valid qualification as bachelor, master, or sometimes even doctoral course or online. The academic track and program content will be identical or very close to ones delivered on campus. Of course, there are some questions about the quality of education, and we will tell about it later. On the other hand, as more and more options for online education appear on the market, people can now enroll on various online courses such as OpenEdX, Coursera, Udemy, literally thousands of them, building their own stack of micro-credentials, skill sets. And these learners can have free access to any class, study for free, and interact with the experts through forums, chat, and even direct connections with leading professors from leading universities. After completion of the program, learners can get the certificate issued by institution, and this qualification is not official, is not so good, probably like master or bachelor's diploma, but for most employees, it is very significant things to be hired. And although quite a lot of arguments today which format of online education is better, online or in campus, we definitely see that online is getting more and more efficient and widespread. And in in our in current situation, we see that much more important to discuss the challenges, what common to types of learnings, and how to deal with them effectively, and where is the proctoring finally. Today, I dwell on the three of these concerns: how to evaluate e-learning results, how to acknowledge online certification, and how to develop consistent online course content. That's totally different tasks, but they are connected with the tools we can implement to reach it. The first task is directly related to the proctoring functionality. It is monitoring the online testing flow and controlling that learners observe the rules, and proctoring is intended for it. It doesn't matter if you need to organize oral exams or any checking skill sets using any software. You still can use the remote proctoring, including Examus, of course. Different options of user identifications can help you check that students taking the exam is the same one who was enrolled on course, and AI algorithms recognizing specific behaviors, like looking away, using notes, using prohibited devices, and so on. And finally, proctoring solution provides the probability of cheating and the reports about the student's behavior. You definitely know about it. And I'm sure that most of you familiar to proctoring technologies. And I would like to highlight here the thing about configurable reports. So it's proctoring solution is not just the highlighting the alerts, not just probability of cheating, but you can get a lot of information from the student's behavior, and I will explain what I mean. So proctoring results can tell you not only about the number of cheating attempts, it provides you a huge data set, and when you connect it with the data in your testing platform, with psychometric data, also you can understand some things about user behavior, engagement, and learning experience. You can see that the majority of students struggle with a particular task or don't have enough time to complete the test, and based on it, you can define problem zones in your course delivery and can improve the content finally. By analyzing the data where students run into problems, you can prioritize the topics to produce first and what should follow later. If you just decide to reformulate the question or skip one section in the test, maybe next time your student will do better. If you know about the psychometric, you understand what I'm talking about. If you dig deeper, you can even understand the way of thinking and attitude to the subject. We are all familiar with the concerns that distant learning is putting at risk the personal relationship between teacher and student, and online proctoring technologies can bring the value here. So, for example, when we are adding the emotional the layer of information about emotions, about students' feedback, teacher can definitely understand more about the audience. On a more general scale, proctoring can become a useful tool for instructional design. In online learning, proctoring data can be tracked in real time through each stage to be accumulated and analyzed against the data stored in your institutional learning management system or testing platform. You can consider the average student's grade, the course performance, and match it with the level of academic honesty and stress to see if they cope with the course workload they have. If you do this continuously, you can get a dynamic picture of how and why the learners are progressing or failing, and create the personal steady track to help them succeed. Finally, our goal to make an adaptive personal track for all learners and provide the best course, the best program to deliver the best way to get knowledge and skills by the learners of online courses, and not only online. And last but not least, I would like to get back to the problem of acknowledging e-learning results. Last year, in partnership with Coursera, Examus has found a new approach to bridging the gap between formal and non-formal educational qualifications. The idea behind the Course Trust, it is our different product from online proctoring, is to incorporate MOOC courses into a standard academic program. Course Trust analyzes the subject contained in the curriculum and finds the matches in Coursera course catalog. The students have an opportunity to study these courses remotely, and the final exams are passed with online proctoring. The results are recognized by a main educational institution, and finally, you can build your program from bricks already ready-made by leading institutions and placed to Coursera platform. This practice is highly beneficial and allow to enrich the program content and keep the learners more interested in studies. E-learning is often misunderstood as training that's simply delivered online. And while that's technically true, e-learning is so much more than a paper manual converted to PDF or classroom delivered PowerPoint presentation. The true scope of e-learning requires a deeper look into how it works and how that translates to smarter, savvy, and more productive learners. And at Examus, we believe that remote proctoring is a powerful tool for that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dmitry. And for a great talk, please, for the audience, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will have Q&A session after the second presentation. And now I'm proud to announce our next expert, Bernard Waglechner. Bernard is a CEO and founder of the bizExaminer company, and Bernard is the one who knows all the features, all the different aspects of online examinations, and ready to guide the customers through the most complex examination process. Bernard, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you to Examus for the invitation to this webinar, and also to Microsoft of bringing us all together and to help reaching out to the audience. As Anastasia said, so my name is Bernhard. I'm CEO and co-founder of the company behind bizExaminer. bizExaminer is e-assessment, e-testing solution, mostly for higher education, enterprise, and also for certification programs. We are based in Vienna, in Austria, so absolutely in the central of Europe. And we have about half of our turnover in the German language market, like Austria and Germany, and the rest worldwide. And my job now, my intention now is to tell you a bit our story of the last years. So bring you, I have to switch to the next slide. So I want to tell you how the landscape looked like in Austria, Germany, and Central Europe before COVID, before the pandemic. Then tell you some stories what happened through the last 2 years, and at the end what we suggest will happen in the future. So before COVID, it was an interesting situation because US and Western Europe was far behind in remote proctoring. So as we know, there are companies out there which are already on the market since 20 years or more, which had proctoring as a full service in their offerings. And these companies wasn't really known in Central Europe before the pandemic. So as I know, there was some universities and institutions which already had distance education and also supported this distance education in some minor points with distance examination. But there was also foreign certification programs, in example from Microsoft, SAP, Oracle, and so on, which already started with remote proctoring before the pandemic. The offerings was here, but not really used. So Microsoft certifications also happened before the pandemic, mostly in test centers in Central Europe. But the offering started with support of remote proctoring about, let's say, 4 years ago. But there was one sector which already had experience with remote proctoring before the pandemic. It was the higher education sector with the topic of running entrance exams. There were two aspects of using distance examination there. The first aspect was the huge amount of people who want to attend the university. So I know from universities of applied sciences with let's say around 1,000 applicants which want to enter the university, which only had to offer around 200 seats per year. And online examination leads into a scalable situation when also supported by remote proctoring. And the second one was that there are a lot of students out there. They are coming from very far away countries like Eastern Asia, Russia, Eastern Europe or so, coming to Austria and Germany and want to study here in the universities. And it was easier to reach them through online exams at the topic of the entrance exams. Then, as we all know, pandemic starts, and it was a very chaotic situation in the first weeks and months. So on the universities and on the higher education sector, mostly there were only panic mode. So they had, in the first hand, the focus to keep the learning and the teaching running during the pandemic, and they was very focused on online learning sessions and not so on online exams. So they said, okay, first we have to face the issues with online teaching, with webinars, with Teams, with Zoom, and so on. And if there is some time and energy left, then we will check if we are also able to do the exams online. And some of them achieved and some are not. So there jumped out a lot of different strategies. Some had, let's say, a strategy paper under the table from years before the pandemic and puts them out and directly jumped into distance learning and distance examination. And others was completely overwhelmed and said, okay, we will try to bring our students back in the summer to do some on-site exams. And it always depends on the teaching staff itself, if this was a success or not. And I know from students out there that some universities did it very well and some did it completely not well and had total failures on that. So we have seen everything. For us at bizExaminer, it was also a very rushy time because all our clients had to jump into distance examination, and we also seen everything there. So it always, how to face with remote proctoring is always a question of what's needed at the end of the day. Is it in high-stake exams for higher education? Is it a certification program? Is it intermediate exams or something else? And what happened then when some universities managed to jump into remote proctoring during pandemic? In Central Europe, we have, let's say, something like a history behind data protection. In example, Germany is very strict on data protection since many years, also before the pandemic, and also before the GDPR takes effect. And when it comes to the first distance examinations, so there happened different things. So the first to explain is that GDPR is a term of data protection in Europe, but in reality, it's not the same of all countries and all areas in Europe. So an example, the national implementation of GDPR in the Netherlands is a bit different than the implementation in Austria and in Germany. And how it will be lived in the real practical life, it's the next different question. So if it's implemented in Germany in a very similar way than in Austria, this doesn't mean that in reality it will be handled at the same thing. So, and the next thing is also it makes big difference if we talk about public institutions or private companies. So private companies, in example with certification programs, had it a bit easier. So they are sticking to the GDPR rules, all have to be transparent, the test taker have to be in control of their own data and so on. And they have to apply to all this data savings, and all is fine. In higher education and in public education and the public sector general, it's a bit different. So the main point of GDPR is that only process and store personal data where it's absolutely necessary doing the job to be done, and only store and process data within the EU, which also means the access for technicians should also be only within the EU. And the mainly discussed question in remote proctoring, as we have seen, is what is absolutely necessary to do remote proctoring? And the answer is completely different. So the one said, okay, automatic streaming data processing is fine because it's needed, and the others say it's not fine. So during the pandemic, also what happened is that some students started different legal discussions with the universities, and the most discussions started on the question of equality. So is an exam for someone who is sitting at home before the camera and before the screen, for the student A, is it the same situation as for student B? So does they have absolute equal chances to pass the exam, or is student B having a better computer, better internet connection, a better environment, or have student A little kids at home which are not silent, and so on? And this was the start of the discussions during the pandemic in the face of GDPR and remote proctoring. What happened then is that these discussions jumped out of the universities up to the, let's say, government, public sector. And some areas, an example in Germany, like Bavaria, started to implement own education laws, how to act with exams from home. And Bavaria is my example for that, how it could be very strict. And in the moment, it seems that they are getting the standard for the public education over the most regions in Germany. And this law says, in the core of the laws, it says there should not be automatic data processing. There should not be a stream recording except for creating fraud evidence in single situations. There should only be live proctoring, and only with staff from the institution which runs the exams, which means this, the proctoring staff must be from the university itself. And there must be an on-site exam as an alternative free of choice. So to have the possibility that students can choose if they would want to do the same exam at the same time from home, or going to the university and do it on site. And this is currently the state in most of the regions in Germany, but I'm sure that will not be the final state. There are some, let's say in this way, special issues with equality. So each student generally must have the same chance taking the exam, but there are completely different interpretations of that, as I said before. And one example, I know a professor of an University of Applied Sciences here in Austria, and the students came to him and say, we do not want to do the exams from home because you're recording my private environment and my private room, and we want to have easier exams and maybe later on in half a year on site in the university. Then this professor goes to the students and said, okay, I know you are taking ETL exams from Microsoft and you pay for it, and everything is okay, and it's okay for you that they are recording your room. Why not with my exams? And this leads in a discussion where they created a project together, the students and the professor, to check what are the fears and what are the real intention of these discussions in the background. And the outcome was very different. The one is that students try to have easier exams if there is some chance. Some students try to interrupt exam processes to get a better insight and a better power of the exam process itself. But at the end, it was some equality fears. So the students said, okay, the year before they had on-site exams under these circumstances, and now we fear that it's for us it's more difficult and not so easy to pass, and it generally the pandemic situation is overwhelming us. So we want to interrupt this process and to have it like the students in the last years, because we think pandemic will be over in half a year or so. And that was the real fears behind. So mostly it's an equality question. The current trends and prospects on the proctoring landscape as we see it from our perspective as bizExaminer. So the reasons for remote examination from before the pandemic will stay. This was the first 3 points. So distance education institutions, foreign certification programs, and higher education entrance exams. But we also see, like Anastasia said, it's here to stay. So there is now 2 years after the pandemic started, all the education institutions had to think about digital education. They have to think about remote learning. They had to solve all these problems. Everybody is common with Zoom, with Teams. There's so much things which happened the last years, which have changed the education sector. So, and I see that most of the universities try to jump back to on-site learning and on-site examination as it was before the pandemic, except the universities which are in competition to others. Because if you have an example, University A, which try to get students, and also University B, which try to get students, and University A have the offering of hybrid study, so that the students can take their learning center exams from everywhere, not the whole time during the study time, but they can decide how to do it. Then University A will get the students, and the University B, in competition to A, will not get the students, and that will be one of the main reasons why distance learning and distance examination will stay forever. So, and this competition now is worldwide. So there also are Coursera as an example we had in the previous presentation. We have platforms and offerings through the World Wide Web, which is accessible from the whole globe. So before the pandemic, there was local offerings of higher education, and these local offerings are now in a competition of worldwide education, and the innovation in this education sector just started. So as we see is there are discussions out there, an example for using augmented reality for proctoring. So if the proctoring person is looking through the camera on Google Glass environment, in example, then it's easier to check possible cheating than through the webcam. Or also artificial intelligence to check learning paths for students, or generally to create education offerings, but also to create exams and maybe oral exams. It's not said that in maybe 5 or 10 years, if there is an oral exam, the educator on the other side is a real person, or it's artificial intelligence. And what we also see now is a rush into the virtual reality sector. So exams also will happen in virtual reality exams environments, and it's more a transfer from know-how based to knowledge-based exams. So know-how-based exams could be taken through multiple choice, essay, on-screen writing, and so on. But practical exams, in example, if an electrician have to do some circuit stuff on the table or so, have to be on site for now, but it's not said that it also have to be in the future. So that's my last slide, and I'm ready with my explanations.
Thank you, Bernard. It was very interesting, and thank you for covering all these aspects that we all faced. The difficult questions, because nobody gave a guide how to do online exams when pandemic started, and it was really a challenge. Okay, let us see if we have any questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope the topic was interesting. We encourage you to ask questions in a chat or Q&A box. Let's wait for a minute. Or maybe the questions goes directly to your chat, Dmitry and Bernard.
No.
Not so far.
Okay. I think we were clear. Okay. Yeah, we will wait for a couple of minutes for your questions, but if you don't have one, please take part in our survey when you leave the webinar. We would like to ask your opinion to make the next events more useful and more insightful. Okay, so no questions at the moment. We will definitely share the recording of the exam and the presentation with all of the attendees, and you will have contact information of our experts. So please feel free to send your questions by mail directly to Dmitry and Bernard. And thank you all for the participation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you, Bernard. It was the pleasure.